Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. First, let's talk about Evander Holyfield's recent statements about David Haye. Right? Keep in mind, Evander and David Haye have a lot in common. Right? Both of these guys started off at a weight lighter than heavyweight. Both of these guys won titles at that lighter weight, went up to the heavyweight division, and then won a share of the heavyweight championship. Right? Well, Evander Holyfield believes that David Haye beats Anthony Joshua. Right? Let me say this. The only question in my mind regarding that fight is whether David Haye is still David Haye. Right? If David Haye, in my opinion, is still David Haye, he just is too sudden. He just moves too well for Anthony Joshua. Right? Keep in mind, David Haye against a younger Vladimir Klitschko goes 12 rounds. Right? Haye's not a sitting duck for punches. If you look at that Klitschko fight, you're going to notice there are moments in that fight where Klitschko actually cuts off the ring, throws a bunch of punches, and David Haye has his head on a swivel. Right? I view Anthony Joshua, and I know he's a hot name in boxing right now, but I view Joshua as a plotter. He's flat-footed. Right? He's not on his toes. He's not moving with you. Right? I get the feeling that if David Haye is still David Haye, Haye could stay outside, wait for his moment, then jump in and land a haymaker. Now, I've said this for years, I'll say it again. David Haye's an underrated puncher. He's one of the hardest punchers in the sport pound for pound. He doesn't have to hit as hard as Anthony Joshua to be the more effective puncher in that fight. Right? So, I'll say this. If the fight were to go off tomorrow, and if David Haye were an underdog in that fight, I would take Haye to win it. I'll concede, though, since Haye's been out of the ring more than in the ring, right, I would have liked to have seen more film on David Haye's recent game, right? Let's shift gears. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to applaud, and I do mean applaud, the sanctioning body that pulled the plug on the Deontay Wilder-Alexander Povetkin fight. Now, longtime subscribers here know that I feel Povetkin is a better fighter than Wilder. I thought Wilder was on a suicide run, right? He was going to travel to Moscow to fight a better fighter. I thought, wow, he doesn't have to worry about the weight of his luggage on the way back because he'd be leaving his belt in Moscow. But let me say this. There have been rumors about Alexander Povetkin for a long time. If you Google Wilder, you're going to find some comments by Wilder before this fight was made, in which Wilder is openly speculating about drug use by Alexander Povetkin. Now, let's back up a second and let's talk about steroids, right? Let's be blunt. Steroids in, let's say, tennis. Okay, look, don't get me wrong. It makes for an unequal playing field. And when I say steroids, I'm also including drugs like the drug Povetkin tested positive for, which, by the way, is the same drug that Maria Sharapova tested positive for, right, that may have ended her career. Understand, this drug was legal until the beginning of this year, but the athletes were warned that the drug was being made illegal. You and I know, too. The legal-illegal argument is a bit ridiculous because the real question is, does the drug give you a better performance? Right? Does it enhance your game? All I can say is the fact that the bodies regulating the sport aren't aware of a performance enhancer doesn't mean it's not a performance enhancer. So I do believe it's a fair question to ask, how long has the athlete taken this performance enhancer? I think, and it's independent of whether the athlete's breaking the rules, I do think it's a fair question to ask how much of the athlete's past performance is attributable to his use or her use of this performance enhancer. Right? I know the Carlos Takam people are now looking at that fight and they're saying, man, our guy was in that fight until the later rounds when he got worn down. The drug Povetkin tested positive for is a stamina enhancer. So the Takam people are wondering, was he on it during that fight? And if he was not on it, would he have won the fight? I think those are fair questions. Well, let me say this. Using a drug like this in tennis, you know what? Nobody gets physically hurt. Tennis is not a collision sport. Using a drug like this in basketball or baseball, a little bit dicier. But again, it's not a collision sport. Using it in American football or boxing, you got to be kidding me. People's lives are at stake. You come in the ring juiced up with an advantage over the other guy, right? Because you're juiced up. In the heavyweight division, that might literally be the difference between life and death, right? It's one thing to get your ass kicked. It's another to get your ass kicked by a guy who's juiced up on performance enhancers, right? So, Povetkin, months after the drug was made illegal, took some drug tests by the testing agency. I believe it's VADA. Folks, he passes the drug tests. The drug is not in his system. Then he takes some more recent tests. Guess what? Now the drug's in his system. Now, I'm just speaking for myself. To me, it looks like after testing clean this year, when the drug is illegal, that Povetkin took the drug and ended up getting busted by failing the next drug test. Right? If that's the case, he doesn't deserve a shot at the heavyweight title. Right? Certainly not right now. Right? You mean to tell me that with thousands of people having paid hard-earned money, especially in this economy, to watch a heavyweight title fight, having made travel arrangements to get to the arena, right? For some people, it's traveling from out of town. For other people, it's calling up the babysitter and saying, hey, please take care of little Julie, right? Making plans. People are getting excited. It's taking time off from work for some folks. You mean to tell me with all the plans people have made, keep in mind, you have an American heavyweight champion, he's traveling to Moscow. He actually traveled outside of the country already. He was in a different country, right? Had a training regimen. Then he was going to head to Moscow. Think about the press. You had a lot of people whose publication said, hey, Joe, go to Moscow. I need for you to cover this fight. You're our boxing guy. Right? A lot of press people made arrangements to make it to the fight. And you mean to tell me, with all these people relying on this event, some idiot fighter is gonna, while being drug tested, while in a drug testing protocol, take a banned drug to enhance his stamina? Folks, I got no sympathy for Alexander Povetkin. And keep in mind, this was the guy I was picking to win the fight. I got no sympathy for him, right? If we're going to have a conversation on, oh, shouldn't steroids be allowed? Just understand, men have gotten killed in fights where no steroids have been involved. Right? PEDs should have no place in boxing. Simply put, too much is at risk. Let me say this too. You want the heavyweight champion's title, you need to beat him in a clean fight. You can't have some setup where in the later rounds you're benefiting from a stamina enhancing drug. Right? That is simply ridiculous. Let's also talk about whether the fight should have gone forward. Right? Too much is at stake for that fight to take place now. Deontay Wilder, right? Even if they said, hey, it's a non-title fight now. Right? All these thousands of people have made plans to be at the arena. We can't let them down. Well, just understand, Deontay Wilder is an unbeaten fighter right now. Unbeaten. You don't want him losing that unbeaten record because his opponent has taken PEDs. Right? So as far as I'm concerned, even though I thought Wilder was going to lose the fight, this is a successful title defense by Deontay Wilder. I'm just grateful that we found out about this failed drug test before the fight, because it would have been a tragedy to have the fight, have the title change hands, and then find out that one of the guys was on performance enhancers. Right? All I could say to Alexander Povetkin is, get back in line, this time be clean. Right? Don't have yahoos come forward and say, yeah, he failed the test, but, you know, he barely failed the test. Right? Don't try to sell that to me while at the same time saying this drug was legal last year. Guess what? Povetkin, you need to hire some dudes, some stooges, who are responsible for looking on the calendar, who can tell you, hey, player, it's not 2015, it's 2016. Right? This illegal drug, which was not in your system when you passed the preliminary drug test, shouldn't be in your system at any time this year, certainly not before a title fight. So Deontay Wilder now gets to move on. Understand, the heavyweight division has a lot going on, right? Some big fights coming up, right? Some new champions. I would say Anthony Joshua, who I mentioned earlier, is a viable opponent, right? Certainly the winner of Tyson Fury, Vladimir Klitschko, is a viable opponent, right? I would say guys who had the belt in the past, David Haye, is a viable opponent. I know Deontay Wilder has worked awfully hard to get himself ready for what he thought was going to be a title defense in Moscow, right? I know he's in shape right now. I hope he picks a big-time opponent for his next fight, keeps in shape, and gives the fans a show, right? Just understand, though, that he's a victim in all of this as well. Because I'm sure Wilder wanted to shut up his critics, wanted to shut up the millions of people like me who thought he was going to lose the next fight. I'm sure Wilder thought, hey, I'm going to Moscow to defend my title, right? To put a little bit more shine on my reputation, to prove to folks that I am the best heavyweight on the planet, right? He was denied that opportunity because his idiot opponent decided to take a banned substance, right? Just understand, there are a lot of lost opportunities here. There are a lot of victims here, right? Shame on Povetkin, his nutritionist, whoever's involved in, this guy's decision. I don't know if the nutritionist involved, but whoever is involved in this guy's decision to take this banned drug that Maria Sharapova just got banned over. Shame on you. That's ridiculous. The sanctioning body made the right call. In my opinion, Wilder, who was all set to fight this guy, has no obligation to fight this guy anytime soon. That's how I see it. I understand we're going to be divided on this one. Let me hear your thoughts, right? Especially if you disagree with me. If you feel the fight should have gone forward, that Wilder should have hopped in the ring against a guy who was taking PEDs during training, right? If you feel Wilder should have risked his title or his unbeaten streak against this kind of opponent, right? An opponent whose stories, if you track them and compare them to the test results, just don't make sense, right? Then I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. And of course, if you feel that Joshua beats Haye, right? That's an intriguing fight. That's a good UK dust-up, right? Or if you feel that Haye beats Joshua, tell us about it in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.